we all agree that drones are awesome. If you don't already know, the Scottish Highlands are awesome. If you don't already know, a 1970 bright orange Ford Mustang muscle car is awesome. What do you think happens when we stick it all together? I'm Stewart and welcome to Drone Film Guide, the channel where we learn to fly like filmmakers. Now I'll say at the outset that we are not experts when it comes to filming cars with drones. We've done it a few times before, which makes us more knowledgeable than some, but it certainly doesn't make us experts. And in fact, when our production company, Captain Cornelius, was approached to film a music video for a band, part of what we proposed was to film a 1970 Ford Mustang up in the Scottish Highlands of Glencoe. So we jumped at the opportunity when the client said yes, and we got stuck in. Prior to that, we'd become aware of a music video, Lawson Roads, I think it is. The link is in the description below, and they have some gorgeous shots in there. I think it was filmed in Iceland, some amazing aerials filming a American muscle car, not sure which one. And we'd seen that and we thought, we have to do that, we have to try and replicate that. Now, as it happens, we fly a Phantom 4, we have a small production company, we don't have the luxury of closing roads in Iceland, and so on and so forth. So we had to do it fairly run and gun style under time pressure. The days were short at that point in time, we only had the Mustang for a certain length of time. The band were then going to show up in Glencoe, we had to film them as well. So there's a lot going on. So I'm going to share with you now some lessons, some experiences, some ideas that we got from doing that, so that hopefully you can either learn from our mistakes or learn from our experiences, and with a similar kind of setup, achieve the kind of shots that we just showed you there in the previous showreel. So in terms of the problems that we face, they are subjects look too small, they also look too slow, and your battery life is always limited on a drone. In terms of solutions and tips, fly fast and close, crop in post-production, speed up the footage in post-production, get inspired by others, zoom in post-production, and above all, plan your shoot. The first problem that you have is when you take the drone up for the first time, filming a person, an animal, car, whatever the case may be, you're immediately disappointed with how small that subject is. On the assumption that you wanted to get close and replicate those shots that you've seen in the films, you're going to be disappointed. A combination of the wide angle of the lens and the fact that you're probably not that close to your subject means you have a small subject, something to overcome. A follow-on problem with that, problem number 2, in the case of filming cars, is that even if the car's going 50-60 miles an hour down the road, it doesn't look like it. It looks really slow. Unless you're really close to the car with your drone, it looks slow. Disappointingly so. Especially when you're filming a rock band and they're meant to be causing havoc, tearing up the roads of the Highlands in Scotland. You don't want them to be just puttering along, looking as if they're out for a Sunday drive. It's a problem to overcome. And then third issue that we had on this shoot in particular, although we prepared for it, is that your drone only has a certain flight time. Battery power is always limited, it's always going to be an issue. So you can't afford to have the drone up there while the car is doing, laps of the Highlands and you're just hoping to see what you can get, hoping for the best. You're on the phone to the driver of the car saying, oh, where are you? You didn't turn around, you didn't come back. You have to think that through in order to get the most out of the shoot. Otherwise you could find yourself driving 3 hours up north, driving 3 hours back, having got at best a couple of shots, and no one wants that. So let's look at some practical advice to get the most out of our car shots. Number 1, fly fast and fly close. Simple. In some ways it's the easiest and most obvious piece of advice, in other ways it's the least practical, most dangerous, and most complicated to put into practice. Nonetheless, with the Phantom 4 we have a sports mode and we can fly to 40-45 miles an hour, something like that, which is pretty nippy. In this shot, this is exactly what we did. We flew it in a straight line, the car came into shot, there was a good sense of speed, we were also fairly close at the side of the road, and we were pleased with that. It was a good result. Problem, however, is that you have propellers in the shot, because the Phantom 4, if you haven't already seen it flying in sports mode, it flies at a 45-degree angle like this, going zzz, an absolute rate of knots. It's quite impressive to see, but you lose half of your shot because of the propellers. And as you can see in the previous shot, we have a letterbox. We've actually cropped in a little bit, which we'll come to in one of our later points. But there you go. Fly fast, fly close. Just do so sensibly, safely, and in the right set of circumstances. Number 2, crop in. This is something that we do all the time in our drone footage, whether we're filming people, buildings, cars, doesn't matter. We're fixed with a wide angle field of view on the drone, and we don't always want that wide angle field of view. And unlike in point 1, we're not always in a position to get closer to our subjects. For safety reasons, for practical considerations, whatever it is, we're limited and we can't zoom. There's no zoom on the Phantom. So we're left with post-production cropping in. Now we deliver our end products, our end videos to our clients in Full HD, 1080p, not 4K. So we can safely double in on our shots by cropping out all this wide field of view and cropping much closer and give the sense that we were flying much closer. Number 4, speed up the footage. Now we discussed how one of the problems is that the car ends up looking a little disappointingly slow when it's tearing through the highlands, even if it's going at quite a good speed. So an obvious solution to this is just to speed up the footage in post-production. It's not really too much to say on this one other than you speed it up in post. As you can see, that was very slow and this is a lot faster. Just watch out that there's no sheep at the side of the road, people walking, or anything that could give away the fact that you've speeded up the clip in post when people are watching back the final video. Okay, so we've talked about some solutions to some of the problems and challenges that we identified earlier. So hopefully now, with the benefit of our hindsight, you're better placed to plan out some of your own shots with cars. Now, let's look at some more creative and fun aspects to get the most out of your shots. So the best piece of advice we can offer is get creative. And by that we mean look at other examples of work, make a note of all those cool shots that they did, and do them yourself. Now, I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but at the same time, we all have to take inspiration from somewhere. And at the end of the day, us, like probably some of yourselves, we didn't have the option of shutting down roads and spending 5 days doing drone shots for whatever purpose. So we have to get creative. It's just the nature of what we do. With that in mind, you would be amazed at the variety and number of drone shots that you could get if you just have access to one single piece of road, single piece of track, whatever it is, and your car. You can do a shoot worth of drone shots with that one setting. Now again, coming back to the notion that if you, like us, don't have days and days to film these kinds of shots, you're not dealing with clients with unlimited budgets, you don't have hundreds of people organising the shoot for you, closing off roads, etc, etc, you're going to have to make the most of what you've got on the day. Now unfortunately, one of the problems that creates is that some things just don't work out. You know, if you're having communication problems with your driver, for example, and you had in mind this amazing panning shot or whatever it was, arcing, active track, curving, this, that, the next thing, that might not happen. So you could find yourself going back with, for you, slightly underwhelming footage. I wouldn't go as far as to say that happened with us, of course not, but you know what I mean. With that in mind, we rely quite heavily on post-production to jazz up our footage, quite frankly. Now, we already talked about the idea of cropping in to get closer to your subject, but something that we do quite a lot is post-production zooming as well, to add a sense of motion, be it up, down, left, right, or even just zooming in a little bit to create that extra sense of travel that you might not have managed to achieve on the day itself. Now, you don't have to be negative about that. You can also add it to a perfectly brilliant shot to create another sense of motion. So it's not just a fix, it can be a complementary way of boosting the quality of the footage even further. But nonetheless, keep it in mind and see how you get on with some of that. The final piece of advice we can offer, and it's a slightly boring one even though it's the most important one, is you have to plan your shoot. Especially if you're going up to the middle of nowhere, or even if you're not going to the middle of nowhere, you have to film as effectively and efficiently as possible, especially if you're doing it for on a commercial basis for a proper client. You want to look like you really know what you're doing. In the case of our shoot, we mapped out exactly where the passing places would be so that our driver and Mustang could turn around and come back. So the way we structured it was we would aim to get a shot on the first pass driving away, and we knew that they would turn around, and we would aim to get a shot on the way back on the second pass. And we were able to repeat that several times before we moved to the next section of road, where again we knew exactly where the start and end points were, so we could make the most of our time. I love cars, and I certainly love bright orange American muscle cars from the 70s. So for me and the rest of our team, that was just a lot of fun filming those shots up in Glencoe. But I have to say it was also very stressful because of the time pressures that we were faced with, and the challenges of filming in an environment like that. So hopefully passing on some of that experience to you, you can achieve similar, better results than that with relatively limited resources, and make the most of what you've got. As I say, maybe one day you'll find us sitting on a Hollywood set with some kind of multi-octocopter, ginormous beast flying a red epic underneath. But until that point, we're going to make the most of what we've got. Let us know how you're getting on with all that kind of stuff. Post some of your clips below, send some of your comments, ask any questions. And as always, don't forget to subscribe so that we can keep you posted as and when we're coming out with more content at Drone Film Guide.